Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for joining us for this morning's meeting of the South Essex Council's Joint Committee. We've got 5 items on our agenda this morning to go through. The main business of the day is to look at the SEC programme and our priorities for 25-26, following an informal meeting that we had a couple of weeks back where we asked officers to do some work for us on preparing a report, and we'll also have a look at the finances. But before we get started, can I ask agenda item number 1, have we got any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Cowan, and subbing is Councillor Robinson, and apologies from Councillors McKinley and Kent.
Okay, thank you. Members, do we have any declarations of interest that anyone wishes to raise? There are none. Any from officers? No, thank you. Agenda item 3 is the finance update report. Elizabeth, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the report has been attached. So in the 24-25 financial year, which has now been closed, the majority of the work progressed on the digital programme. A small element of the grant funding, National Highways very kindly allowed us to transfer that into 25-26 on the basis that that work is completed in April. So I believe that work has now been completed and our final grant submission will be submitted. So that should draw the existing funding for digital to an end. Any further work would need approval by the committee for further funding, or if external funding is sought. We did end the year with a £333,000 surplus, and that brings the reserve balance carried forward into the new financial year to £740,000. And I understand it's been agreed that no further contributions will be made, so that is the sum of the available money for the committee going forward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Members, open for questions. Does anyone have any questions on the report? No? Okay. Thank you very much indeed for that. We're only asked to note the report, so we consider the report noted. Agenda item 4 is the SEC programme and priorities for 25-26. Again, as I said, this came off of the informal meeting we had a few weeks ago. And Colin, this one is over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the report that's presented in front of you, as the Chair has outlined, is on the back of a request from the Chair and leaders to look at the current work programme for SEC, to do a review of that in light of the changing landscape that we have here in Essex, and to put forward those that we would consider to continue, along with those that we would like to cease. So in consultation with the Chief Executive and others in different councils, we've undertaken a review of the current work streams, which is presented today. Obviously, this review is essential to ensure that our programmes remain relevant and effective in the face of the changing landscape, which I've already mentioned. The findings and recommendations from this review are presented in the report, highlighting the adjustments needed to align with new opportunities and priorities. In terms of the current work streams that are in existence, there's the skills and economy and jobs, good homes, infrastructure and digital, environment and climate change, and sustainable transport. And as you go through the report, you will see some of the achievements of those different work streams being outlined within the report, and recommendations to either continue with them with a nominated chief executive lead, or to discontinue them for a multitude of different reasons. So just to run through that very quickly, Chair, if that's okay, in terms of skills, economy and jobs, you can see some of the achievements that's been made from that. Also to note that we will be getting further information from SEETS in terms of their key performance indication. However, there is a recommendation for that to continue, and for Gary Jones to pick that up as sponsor chief executive. In terms of good homes, that work is recommended to now be discontinued, but to look at that in terms of future aspirations and future work programme. For digital, there's lots going on in this space, and again, lots of highlights in the report around digital outcomes. This is recommended to continue, with myself leading that from a Southend perspective. In terms of environment and climate change, that is recommended to discontinue. and to look at that for future planning and sustainable transport. Once again, a recommendation to decommission that piece of work to concentrate on supporting the development as part of devolution. As you come towards the end of the report, there is therefore some potential new work streams which we need to do some further work on. However, these were some of the highlights that we made in the informal session, now feeding through into the formal meeting. And there's a series of next steps in terms of the work we need to continue doing on scoping that exercise and how we will work both as leaders and chief executives to make that happen. So in conclusion, as you can see in the report, there are a series of recommendations that are outlined there, both in terms of the discontinuation of certain work streams, the continuation of others, and the delegation to then continue to gear up for future work programs as seen fit. And again, this is all against the backdrop of us needing to adapt in terms of the changing landscape for Essex. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Colin. So just for a bit of detail as well, I think obviously members are looking at the agenda, and we can see when we're talking about the change in landscape that we are obviously referring to devolution and local government reorganisation, which is dominating a lot of what we have to do, and that will impact. And I think we said the last time we met that we were very keen to ensure that South Essex has its own particular set of asks in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the things that we would want any mayor to be looking at, because I think that we've always said South Essex is very different to North Essex, and therefore what we've been asking for a long time, things like the A127, things like the A13, some of those other issues that we all know about, and we see them every day in our inboxes, that we want to make sure we've got a really strong case to put before the mayor and the combined authority or strategic authority, whatever it's called, next year. But in addition to that, I think on page 15, the additional work streams, we also need to ensure that we're not taking our eye off the ball, and that as a group we are focusing. TA is having a huge impact on this part of the world. Obviously there is discussions of we will very quickly come to learn if this is a part of the world that the Newtown Commission is interested in, and that is something that this region will have a view on. I think it was very helpfully suggested as well at the last meeting that the social housing regulator, some of you guys have been through that already, some of us are waiting to go through that, so sharing some best practice around how we can prepare internally for that, I think is helpful. Obviously Devo, and then our set of asks and how we're presenting that to the government at this moment in time, because we do have a window of opportunity right now as Essex is on that Devo priority programme to get a hearing with government that perhaps we haven't had quite as acutely in recent years. Members, is there any other comments or questions on this report that people wish to float at this stage? Yeah, Councillor Newport.
Thanks, Gavin. Just on the digital side, Colin, which I believe you're leading on, one of the areas that I have, and I know Councillor Hoy shares with me, is about digital inclusion, and I just wanted to know, is that going to be covered under that part? I know we're talking mainly about infrastructure, but I think digital inclusion, particularly in the Rochford area, is really important. And I think although Essex are doing some work, I'm concerned that will fall down the cracks with LGR. So I think that is a part of the work stream that I'd like to see us focus on as well, because I think there's lots of talk in the report about local colleges and schools, but I think it's that demographic, the elderly demographic, that I think we're missing. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. In terms of digital inclusion, yes, that is an element to the programme. What I would suggest is when we bring the next update back, that we'll bring some further information on how that's being approached for consideration here at the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just raise a couple of issues. On the bottom of page 10 about the low power long range networks, Colin will testify to this. We've had a number of issues in Southend with initially the provider wanting to just sort of stick up extra poles and pylons with very little notice to members of the public, which brought up a number of issues, sometimes where they were only feet away from existing infrastructure. So I'm wondering if other members of the committee have had or will have similar issues that they might want to just note for that. And I'm sure Colin will give the information on that, where we've had to have a number of discussions with the provider to get a sensible resolution to that. The other issue I just want to raise is obviously, as you made the issue about us having the opportunity, with a window of opportunity to talk, to prepare things for government, maybe it might be worthwhile us considering in relation to getting our business cases together, maybe seeking some external support, particularly in the areas of sort of adult and children's care, and also for things like the other projects that we'll have to do as part of that.
Yeah, thank you. So I think it sounds like we need to potentially bring something back on the digital programme for our next meeting, so we'll make a note of that. And I absolutely agree. I think that we need to inject some urgency into the business case support for LGR. I know there are lots of other authorities around the country who are motoring on some of this, and there is definitely a disparity between what county councils are able to spend on this stuff and what districts are able to spend on that as well. So there's definitely a further conversation, I think, that needs to be had on that.
Can I just come in on
Colin? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just to come back on the first point Councillor Robertson made at the bottom of page 10, and just for just a very quick bit of context on that, we had a provider that wanted to come into the city to connect basically smart meters, and as part of their approach, they were looking to erect over 200 masts in and around our highways in Southend, which I'm sure you will all understand created quite a lot of resident anxiety. However, what we were able to, because of the LoRaWAN and the stuff that we've installed, they are actually able to piggyback on the back of that technology, and that has been a piece of work which has now confirmed that those masts will not be put in place. So I think it's a really good news story of how that infrastructure and the work that we've done has enabled that piece of work to be completed. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Any further member wish to raise any points or questions? No? Okay, in which case we are asked to take a vote on the recommendations that are on pages 5 and 6. All those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item 5, I think it's worth, just before we do close the meeting, saying obviously we have a number of work streams going on at the moment with LC, with the LGR work, and some of those other things that we're involved in. Clearly we've got some key priorities here that we need to report on that sit separately to that, but I would suggest that we continue with those informal meetings that we've had, and then perhaps we come back in a couple of months' time in early June, and we have our next meeting, or our next formal meeting of this committee, unless there is anybody who wishes to meet more pressingly. Councillor Aspinall.
One issue that keeps concerning us is the impact of London on the M25 authorities that border it, and I don't know where this is being picked up by either LC. We've spoken about it before at SEC, and it's the London boroughs coming into our authorities and buying up properties and then converting them into housing without any reference to those boroughs. That's something that we were taking up with the government. I don't know if we've got any answer to that. Also, there's the enforcement issue of a lot of organised gangs coming into southern part of Essex from London and carrying out their nefarious ways in our roads and lanes in our boroughs. There needs to be somebody looking at talking to the Met on our behalf regarding that, whether it's individual boroughs or our police crime fire commissioner and the Met. But these are real issues that are concerning us. The fly tipping that's going on in mass is crazy levels, and it's a big problem. But I'll leave it with you. Is there somewhere that we're looking at that?
Yeah, so I think that's certainly the purpose of that final set of work streams that was on the last report. So TA, we were all written to, weren't we, by Roshnara Ali last week as leaders around notifications and around displacement of people out of borough. So the government has sent that message out very strongly again. I think we're approaching a critical year for London. Obviously, they're up for election in 2026, so it's a good time to be engaging with those London boroughs right now and shining a light on some of those practices. I think we need to develop a plan on TA. So, this has been kicking around since the last time I was here. SEC, or as Seller as it was the last time, we went up to London. We had a meeting at London Councils with the then chair of the housing work stream at London Councils. I think we need to do something similar again, and we were signing memorandums of understanding, and individual councils were doing that with various authorities. I think in North Essex, Harlow had a particular issue with Enfield, and they came to an agreement on what was going on there. So I absolutely think that's why it's in the report. We need to do something about that. In terms of the kind of organised serious crime and the county line stuff there, might I suggest that Gary, who has joined us as the Chief Executive in Basildon, but has come from the London Borough of Barking and Dagenham, where he was doing a lot of work with the Met and on community safety, perhaps at our next meeting you might be able to have some conversations and bring forward a bit of a plan as to what we might be able to do to engage as SEC as an entity, but also, as you say, through the Police and Crime Commissioner with colleagues over the county border and into London, because you're right, it isn't just gang crime and everything that people see. It's the fly tipping and the dumping and all of that which is coming across into our boroughs as well. So I think that might be a useful exercise as well, Gary, if you're up for doing that.
I thank you, Chair, because been dumped in Brentwood. We've had 4 over the last 2 years. So, and it's all connected to organised crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to take on that piece of work, as you've highlighted. Got good connections within the Met Police. I'll speak to the Deputy Commissioner for the Met Police. Essentially, what we will need to know, Chair, is the collaboration between the Metropolitan Police and what they're doing and Essex Police. So I will bring back some analysis on how large-scale the issue is.
Thank you. Any other member with any points they wish to raise at this juncture? No? In which case, we'll look to come back in June. We'll action the digital inclusion and the piece of work around TA and the Met relationship. Unless any other officer has any other issues they wish to raise at this point? No? In which case, I will close